Welcome to today's presentation. I'll be discussing an epidemiologic case control study by Sweater et al. 2017, which explored risk factors and tumor characteristics of breast cancer in African American women age 50 and under. This study addresses a significant gap in cancer epidemiology. Young African American women have disproportionately aggressive breast cancer, but few studies have focused on this population using robust epidemiologic methods. Here we see that the study background is focused on the problem, which is African American women under 50 experiencing more aggressive breast cancer. There's also a gap. There's a limited large-scale epidemiologic data for young African American women. The purpose of the study was to explore tumor biology and risk factors among young African American women with breast cancer. Here we're studying the objective and the hypothesis. The hypothesis was that tumor biology and risk factors differ significantly between younger and slightly older premenopausal African American women, and that estrogen receptor, commonly referred to as ER status, might further modify these relationships. So basically the objective was to compare tumor biology and risk factor profiles in women that were younger than 40. As well as the hypothesis that's mentioned in the study is younger women will show more aggressive tumors and distinct risk associations, especially with estrogen receptor status. The study design is case control using pooled data from the AMBER Consortium. It includes thousands of participants from across multiple states with diverse recruitment strategies. There were 2,008 premenopausal African American women with invasive breast cancer enrolled in the study. There were 5,144 premenopausal African American women. The recruitment strategies were using cancer registries, Department of Motor Vehicle records and listings, and cohort data. All studies have what they call inclusion and exclusion criteria. Here, participants were premenopausal African American women. The exclusions ensured that a clear focus was on the target group. As with most epidemiologic studies, the study was not randomized. The inclusion was self-identified African American women, premenopausal, and older than 20 years old. The exclusion was postmenopausal women, those with unknown menopausal status, and no controls. And of course, this was an observational study and not a randomized one. The controls were matched to cases and drawn from various reliable sources. However, differences in data collection methods across subgroups introduced potential bias. The control source came from Department of Motor Vehicle records, Medicare, and what they call BWHS. Matching was frequency matched on demographics. Some differences that were found in the study, some self-reported versus measured data, and possible recall bias. When we talk about statistical analysis, we often refer to the advanced multivariate techniques allowed researchers to control for co-founders and explore interactions between age and hormone receptor status. Here, the type is a multivariate logistic regression, and we're adjusted for a study region, the diagnosis year, education, and reproductive history, as well as the heterogeneity tested by age and estrogen receptor status. As with all studies, there are definitely key findings that we come away with once we review the data. The study did confirm that breast cancer in younger African American women tends to be biologically more aggressive. Some modifiable risk factors such as WHR were highlighted. In younger women, the tumors tend to be higher stage and grade. They're more closely related and associated with family history. Estrogen receptive and progesterone receptor or triple negative tumors tend to be part of their makeup as well. And breastfeeding inversely was related but not significant. All epidemiologic studies face some bias. The AMBER study's strengths are its size and scope. but it could be affected by unmeasured confounding and differing data quality. Some biases that are mentioned that we can see are selection. There was a recruitment variation. Recall, which is a form of self-reporting. Measurement, self versus direct. And unaccounted factors, accounted for factors such as genetic markers and screening behavior. These all present a level of bias and some limitations within the study. Given the robust data and consistent findings, I agree with the author's conclusions. The study fills a major research gap and suggests real avenues for early prevention. What we see is that the authors did conclude that young African American women have more aggressive tumors. Their risk factors differ by age and estrogen receptive status. Prevention through modifiable factors is also possible, and the conclusions are supported and relevant as it relates to the study. A future cohort design would reduce recall bias, allow prospective risk tracking, and better examine causality through biospecimen collection. The ideal study design is going to be prospective cohort with uniform data collection and biospecimen analysis, as was mentioned before. This is also mostly applicable to premenopausal African American women throughout the United States. I'd like to thank you for your attention. Here's the full APA citation for the article used in this presentation. It did come from an article written by Sweater et al. The Biology and Etiology of Young-Onset Breast Cancers Among Premenopausal African American Women. Results from the AMBER Consortium, Cancer Epidemiology, Biomarkers and Prevention, a publication of the American Association for Cancer Research, which was co-sponsored by the American Society of Preventive Oncology. Thank you again, and happy studies.